Stop scrolling right now. This week, not last month, not last year, this week, two things happened that will directly affect the Social Security check that hits your bank account. And I want to ask you something honestly. Did your bank call you? Did the evening news spend more than 30 seconds on it? Did anyone in Washington send you a letter explaining what it actually means in plain English? No, they didn't. The first thing that happened involves a specific date, a date that just moved closer, and if Congress does absolutely nothing between now and then, it triggers an automatic cut of $458 every single month from the average Social Security benefit. Not a proposal, not something a politician is threatening. Automatic, written into law, already scheduled. The second thing sounds like good news on the surface, and in dollar terms, it actually is. But there is a catch buried inside it. A catch that most YouTube channels, most financial advisors, and most news anchors never bother to explain. And if you don't understand that catch, you will walk away thinking you're ahead when you're actually falling behind. I'm going to break both down today. No politics, no spin, just the numbers, what they mean for your specific check, and exactly what, if anything, you should do about each one. Stay with me all the way through, because the part that matters most, it comes last. Let's go back to Monday, June 9th. Every single year, the U.S. Treasury Department and the Social Security Administration publish a document called the Trustees Report. Most Americans have never heard of it. It doesn't make the front page. It doesn't trend on social media. But inside that document is the closest thing we have to an honest, official answer to the question every Social Security recipient is really asking. Is my money going to be there? The trustees' report tracks the financial health of two separate funds. The first is the OASI Trust Fund, Old Age and Survivors Insurance, which is the fund that pays retirement and survivor benefits. The second is the DI Trust Fund, which covers disability benefits. When you hear politicians talk about Social Security running out of money, they're almost always talking about the OASI fund. That's the one that matters for most of you watching this. And this year's headline number, the number that every retiree in America needs to know, is 2032. That is when the OASI Trust Fund is now projected to run out of reserves. Now I need to stop right here, because this is the part that almost every news outlet gets wrong. And if you don't understand this correctly, you'll either panic unnecessarily or dismiss it when you shouldn't. The trust fund running out does not mean Social Security disappears. It does not mean your check goes to zero. Social Security will still exist in 2033. It will still collect payroll taxes from every working American, every single paycheck, every single week. Here's the problem. Those incoming payroll taxes alone, without the reserves, are only projected to cover 78% of what beneficiaries are legally owed, 78 cents on the dollar. The other 22 cents? Under current law, that gap is filled automatically by cutting benefits for everyone, across the board. No exceptions based on age, no exceptions based on how long you've been collecting, no exceptions based on health, income, or need. Let me put that in the numbers that actually matter to your life. The current average Social Security retirement benefit is $2,081 per month. A 22% cut on that number is $458 less every single month. That's $5,496 a year gone. Are you receiving $1,500 a month? That's $330 less every month. Receiving $2,000, $440 less. Receiving $2,500, $550 less. Receiving $3,000, maybe you delayed to 70, you planned carefully, you did everything right, $660 less every single month. I want you to sit with those numbers for a second, because this isn't hypothetical. This is the mathematically projected outcome of Congress doing nothing, and Congress doing nothing is not a rare occurrence. Here's what makes this year's trustees report different from every report that came before it, and why I'm covering it today when most channels will ignore it. The date moved in the wrong direction. Again, last year's report projected the trust fund would run dry in the first quarter of 2033. This year's report moved that date to the fourth quarter of 2032. That's 1 quarter closer. 3 months earlier. Now, 1 quarter might sound small, but think about what it represents. It means the fund is depleting faster than experts projected just 12 months ago. And this is not a one-time blip. This is the second consecutive year the depletion date has moved forward. Why did it move? The trustees explain it clearly in the report itself. The major tax legislation passed in 2025, the One Big Beautiful Bill, included a provision that reduced the income taxes Social Security recipients pay on their benefits. And look, for retirees living on a fixed income, paying less tax is a real benefit. I'm not criticizing that provision, but every dollar of taxes not collected is a dollar that doesn't flow back into the system, and that accelerates the clock. The Bipartisan Policy Center responded to this report within 24 hours. So did the American Academy of Actuaries. AARP put out a formal statement, and they all said essentially the same thing. The window for gradual, manageable reform is closing. Every year Congress delays, the eventual fix has to be bigger, more painful, more disruptive. The math doesn't wait. So, what does this mean for you sitting at home watching this video? If you are already collecting Social Security, I want to be honest with you. Nothing changes today. Nothing changes next month. The system is fully funded under current law through 2032. This is not a situation where you need to call SSA, withdraw your savings, or make any immediate financial moves. But here's what it is. It's information, powerful, important information. Because over the next several years, and I promise you this will happen, you are going to hear politicians on both sides of the aisle giving speeches about Social Security. They're going to use terms like reform and sustainability and protecting the program, and without this context, those words are just noise. With this context, you'll know exactly what they're actually talking about. You'll know that a 22% benefit cut is not a worst-case scare scenario invented by one political party. It is the mathematically calculated outcome of inaction under existing law. You'll know that the window to avoid that outcome through gradual changes is now officially under 7 years. And you'll be able to evaluate what politicians are actually proposing against the real numbers. That's not a small thing. That's the difference between being informed and being manipulated. Now, if you haven't claimed Social Security yet, if you're 62, 65, maybe still working and deciding when to file, this report adds a genuine factor to your decision that most financial advisors aren't talking about. Claiming earlier locks in your benefit level before any potential changes. Whatever Congress does or doesn't do, your benefit is already established. Waiting until 70 gets you a significantly higher monthly check. For every year past your full retirement age that you delay, your benefit grows roughly 8%. That's real money. But it also means a larger percentage of your retirement income depends on Congress finding a solution before 2032. Neither approach is automatically right. It depends on your health, your other income sources, your family's history of longevity, and honestly, your own assessment of what Washington is likely to do, but you deserve to make that decision with accurate information. And now you have it. Now let's shift to the second piece of news, the one that dropped Thursday, June 13th. And this one starts with some genuinely good news. But first, let me make sure we're all starting from the same place, because the COLA calculation is something a lot of people have a fuzzy understanding of, and the fuzziness is what causes people to misread the headlines. Every year in October, the Social Security Administration announces the cost of living adjustment for the following year. This adjustment is designed to help your benefit keep pace with inflation so that as prices rise, your check rises too. The COLA isn't calculated based on general inflation. It uses a specific index called the cpi-w, the Consumer Price Index for urban wage earners and clerical workers, and it only uses data from 3 specific months: July, August, and September. SSA takes the average CPI-W from those 3 months, compares it to the same 3 months the year before, and that percentage difference becomes your COLA. So the official 2027 COLA won't be announced until October 2026. We still have 5 months of data coming in. But independent analysts track the monthly numbers as they arrive and publish early estimates. And those estimates are genuinely useful for financial planning, even if they're not final. This week, after the May inflation data was released by the Bureau of Labor Statistics, those estimates jumped significantly. As of May 2026, the CPI-W is running at 4.4% year over year. That is the highest reading in 3 years. What's driving it? Primarily energy costs. Gasoline prices are up sharply. Utility bills, electricity, natural gas, heating, are climbing due to a combination of geopolitical pressures and domestic supply constraints. And food prices continue to rise faster than the headline numbers suggest, particularly for meat, dairy, and fresh produce, exactly the categories that most heavily affect retirees on fixed incomes. After this data dropped, Mary Johnson, an independent Social Security and Medicare policy analyst who has tracked COLA calculations professionally for decades and is widely considered one of the most reliable independent voices in this space, updated her 2027 COLA estimate to 4.7%. She also noted there's a meaningful possibility it climbs even higher depending on what the summer months bring. The Senior Citizens League, a nonpartisan senior advocacy organization that conducts its own independent analysis, is currently projecting 3.8%. So we have a range roughly 3.8% to 4.7%. Let's look at what both ends of that range actually mean for your check. At 3.8%, average benefit of $2,081, right arrow about $79 more per month, $1,500 benefit, right arrow about $57 more per month, $2,500 benefit, right arrow about $95 more per month. At 4.7%, average benefit of $2,081, right arrow about $98 more per month, $1,500 benefit, right arrow about $70 more per month, $2,500 benefit, right arrow about $117 more per month. For context, the 2026 COLA was 2.5%, which added approximately $56 to the average monthly benefit. So even at the low end of this year's projections, 2027 is shaping up to be a significantly larger dollar increase than what you saw in January. Now, here's where I need you to pay close attention, because this is the part that gets glossed over every single time COLA projections come out. And if you miss it, you'll feel better than you should. A higher COLA exists because inflation is higher. The adjustment goes up because everything you're buying went up first. Think about what that means in practice. Your 2026 COLA was 2.5%. That added about $56 to the average monthly check starting in January. But Mary Johnson also calculated something else. At current May 2026 inflation levels, it costs the average Social Security recipient approximately $94 more per month just to maintain the same purchasing power they had 12 months ago. Your check went up $56. Your actual cost of living went up $94. That $38 gap, that's not money you lost in a dramatic, visible way. It didn't show up as a single bill you couldn't pay. It showed up as the grocery cart that used to cost $180 that now costs $210. It showed up as the utility bill that used to be $120 that's now $155. It showed up as the prescription copay that crept up $8, quietly, month by month, without anyone announcing it. And this is happening right now, in real time, to tens of millions of Americans. According to a survey released this week by the Senior Citizens League, 44% of Social Security recipients now depend on Social Security for 100% of their income, not as their primary income, not their biggest income source, their only income, 44%. That is nearly 25 million Americans with no backup when the math doesn't work out in their favor. And here's the number that should stop you cold. 1 year ago, that figure was 39%. In 12 months, 5 percentage points more retirees went from having some other income source to having none. That is not a gradual trend. That is a collapse of financial cushion happening in real time. In that environment, the gap between what COLA covers and what inflation actually costs isn't an academic policy debate. It's the difference between a retiree paying their electric bill on time or going into debt, between buying their medication or skipping doses. A higher 2027 COLA is genuinely better than a lower one. I want to be clear about that. More money coming in is real. If the adjustment lands at 4.7%, that's nearly $100 more per month for the average recipient, and that matters. But understand what it means. Prices rose fast enough that the system is now trying to catch up. It is not getting ahead. So, what's the practical move here? First, don't make any major financial decisions based on these projections. The official number won't be set until October. Between now and then, 5 more months of data will come in, particularly July, August, and September, the 3 months that actually determine the final calculation. If energy prices stabilize this summer, the number could come in closer to 3.8%. If geopolitical pressures continue driving energy costs up, it could exceed 4.7%. We don't know yet. Second, use this as context for your planning. If you've been wondering whether to make a larger purchase, renegotiate a fixed expense, or adjust your budget, knowing that your check is likely to increase meaningfully in January 2027 is relevant context. Not a guarantee, but useful information. Third, and most importantly, understand the structural gap. If your finances are tight right now, if you're one of the 44% depending entirely on Social Security, a higher COLA in 2027 will help. But it may not fully close the gap between what you receive and what things actually cost. That's not a reason to despair. It's a reason to look now, while you have time, at whether there are resources, programs, or benefits you aren't currently accessing that could help bridge that gap. We'll cover some of those in upcoming videos. Watch for the October announcement. That's when the number becomes official. And when it does, I'll be right here to break it down for you in the same plain language I always use. Let me give you the week in one clean summary. Item 1. The 2026 Social Security Trustees Report was released June 9th. The trust fund depletion date moved to the fourth quarter of 2032, 1 quarter earlier than last year, second consecutive year moving in the wrong direction. If Congress takes no action, benefits are automatically cut by 22% for every recipient the moment reserves run out. On the average check, that's $458 less every month. Nothing changes today. But the clock is real, the math is official, and you deserve to know it. Item 2. The 2027 COLA is currently tracking between 3.8% and 4.7%. Based on May inflation data. That would nearly double the dollar increase from this year's adjustment. The official number comes in October. A larger adjustment is better than a smaller one. But remember, a high COLA reflects inflation that's already ahead of your check. More money in does not automatically mean you're gaining ground. If this gave you something your news channel didn't, something real, something useful, something you can actually act on, please share this video. Not for me. For someone in your life who depends on this income and doesn't know what I just told you. And subscribe and turn on the bell, because this is exactly what I do every single week so you don't have to dig for it yourself.